Hello, everyone. This is Ronnie. Thanks for joining me today. And just to let you know, the UK Fruit Fest takes place July the 21st to the 28th in 2023. I'll put a link down below if you want to learn more about that. Thank you very much. And in this video, what do I want to talk about? Yeah, what I'm going to talk about is um, iodine a little bit. So someone made a comment on something I was doing, and they said you should listen when someone that's been researching this information for many years says that every person they've ever tested has been iodine deficient. That every person they've ever worked with who was a raw vegan, I think was also the added thing, was iodine deficient. And I asked who they were talking about, and I think they said it was Don Bennett. And I suspected it was Don Bennett. Now, this is like the tiny world of the raw vegan, like, festival scene or whatever. It's not really that relevant to a lot of the rest of the world, but it's this very small insular part of the raw vegan world that are people that are debating and talking about all this stuff. And he said that Don Bennett has everything that he claimed, and I don't think Don Bennett would have said this, but he claimed that Don Bennett said that every person that he worked with had tested deficient for iodine. And I don't think it's possible for him to have said that. Maybe every person that he's tested, but every person that he's worked with doesn't make sense because, as far as I know, I was listening to Don Bennett 10 years ago or so, and he wasn't really mentioning iodine. And he started to mention iodine. A couple of years later, it became something he started to mention. So I don't know if he was testing people before that. And there was a point where it felt like every year he was coming out with a new deficiency that raw vegans need to be worried about. And there was a while he was talking about chromium deficiency as being the cause of melon belly, which I don't think is the case. I don't think it's possible to test for chromium deficiency very well. And it's almost impossible to know how much chromium is in your food, by the way. It was a complete theoretical idea. Not a bad thing to have a theory, but I think he could have been more open about the fact that it was a total shot in the dark as an idea. Um, and quite frankly doesn't make sense to me on a simple level. But um, I don't want to be an enemy of anyone or anything like that, or try and create problems or whatever. But my message is that things like iodine deficiency are not really something to worry about, especially in the modern world. And if everyone is testing for iodine deficiency, it's kind of like if well, if everyone's got iodine deficiency, then maybe it's not a big deal. Maybe we've got the definition of deficiency wrong, because, like, who's suffering? What's happening as a result of it? And one of the symptoms of iodine deficiency was goiter. My suspicion about iodine deficiency, it was a thing that happened in the US in particular, and it still happens in some parts of the world. I think India. And it the history of it is that isolated communities that grew their own food and sustained themselves on mostly their own food, and the soil that they used was soil that would flood often, or flooded soils, or basically soils that had no iodine. Now, the fact that a soil would have no iodine is not a sign of anything that humans have necessarily done. Could be just a completely natural occurrence. Nothing to do with the farmers, nothing to do with any chemicals or anything that we're putting in, because putting chemicals in the soil wouldn't affect the iodine, the amount of iodine anyway, because iodine's a nutrient, an element, so it wouldn't just, you're not just going to like destroy iodine. So my suspicion, and I've not really researched it very strongly, but my suspicion is that the iodine deficiency story became a bit of a craze. And whether it was a widespread issue, I'd be surprised if it was a widespread thing. You know, there was another deficiency that happened in the US, which was called pellagra. No one ever talks about that. No one's ever worried about that. Um, because it's like almost impossible to get it now. But that's the thing about most deficiencies. It's like really hard to get them with the amount of food that we have available to you. Like it's really hard to get a deficiency. So people have to work pretty hard to like scurvy only happened because people were going out on ships, and we're living on dried food. You know, like it's it's really hard. So I'm not a big. So my suspicion is that the iodine thing became a bit of a craze, and this led to the government being pressured to put some laws or do something, you know, and the scientists to get together and do something, despite the fact that basically no one else was iodine deficient apart from some parts of the population. And they iodized the salt, and then supposedly all that's cured everything. And the problem with the raw vegan diet is that we don't use salt, although plenty of people do use salt in the raw vegan diet. Not me personally, but a lot of people do, and that therefore, and this the soil's all degraded, and this whole soil thing is what it comes back to as well. And it's another trope, a meme. It's being shared by a lot of people. It's a marketing story from the supplement industry. It's a story that is used to sell supplements. And in that sense, is it a lie? Or is it, it's kind of legal. There's some degree of legality about saying things that aren't quite 100% honest when you're selling products, because it's like buyer beware. Like they should kind of know that you're, like if you say we have the best salt ever, you know, you can say that. You don't get taken to court for making that claim, because you're allowed to say we're the best ever. Or this is the best salt in the world or something. You're allowed to say things like that in the context of selling a product, because the audience or the potential customers are kind of aware that you have an agenda to sell a product, so they know that you're going to say stuff like that. So there's there's a natural skepticism people have in that situation. A person acting like that is just a part of trying to of how salespeople would act, you know, with an enthusiasm and saying this is the best thing ever. This salt's amazing, even if it's the same salt as everyone else has. So, um, so is it a lie? I don't know, but it's not like scientifically factually right to say that the soil, and you have to then say it's like worldwide, because we get food from all over the world. So you'd have to say worldwide soil has become deficient in all these minerals, and where the hell have the minerals went? You know, did they fly off the planet Earth? Like where did they go? The minerals just disappeared, but they're all in the supplements, and they're all in the soil that the supplements are grown in. So, and we can trust the supplement companies because they're moral and good. The farmers aren't, but the supplement companies, you know, but the farmers, oh, we can't trust the people that own the land and are looking to keep on growing stuff in that land. No, they're just going to destroy their land. It's a bizarre conspiracy theory idea that we're not looking after the soil, it's going to become damaged, there's no nutrients left in the food. And then some people say there's more nutrients in organic food. No, no, there's not. No, there isn't. Nonsense. So, um, people want to believe these things. They maybe want to believe it's right. And for certain people, it might back up their argument for why you should do nutrient testing, why you should get worried about nutrients. But people who do a raw food diet, who do any kind of specialized diet, become very hyper vigilant and hypersensitive to nutrition information like that. They become more and more vigilant about it and more concerned, and it can pass over into kind of hypochondria type situation, a bit of a pathology or whatever you would call it, like it's unhealthy behavior at some point. People develop a lot of anxiety about it. And I don't think it's proportionate to the risk of iodine deficiency. Like if you became iodine deficient, um, I don't know, you would get a goiter, you go to the doctor, they say, oh, you need to take more iodine. Wow, big, oh, that's a big terrible thing that just happened to you. Oh, you got a goiter and you went to the doctor. It's not a big deal, is it? But we look around you, how often is it happening? It's just not happening. So, and the testing, apparently, if you look into chronometer and all these things, like they're not very good at even measuring how much iodine is in food, I believe. We don't have a proper database for what are the nutrient levels in different foods. So it's not like we can say for sure iodine has definitely went down in the soil. We can't even, I don't think we can even make a good case to know that exactly. Or iodine is less in the foods that we grow. So what has changed is we've changed varieties of food. So the tomatoes that you eat now are probably not the same variety of tomato that was in the shops in the 1960s. And that's, like bananas is the famous one, where it used to be the Gros Michel banana and now it's the Cavendish banana. And, you know, different banana. So that banana would have different nutritional levels in this one probably. Maybe it's the same, but it's probably different. It's not to do with the soil, and it's not to do with chemicals or anything like that. So my suspicion about iodine is it's something that got blown out of proportion in the first place. Because in small areas that had iodine deficient soils, that can happen for complete natural reasons, that these problems happened. And for some reason that led to iodine being supplemented for the whole country. Just as there are a number of things that are supplemented for the entire country that are fortified into foods. Why are they fortified into foods? Because people eat a terrible diet. Because people don't eat fruits and vegetables, not because they eat exclusively fruits and vegetables. So my suspicion is that many of the nutrient problems that have happened in the past that led to all the supplementation and fortification that happens now are a result of people not eating fruits and vegetables. And yet raw vegans are the most hyper vigilant, hyper worried, and sometimes pathologically like going insane about things like iodine and what's the worst that can happen. That there are symptoms of iodine deficiency that are kind of obvious, like goiters. Maybe that doesn't always happen. I'm not the expert on iodine here. I'm just saying, I'm just thinking it through as a lay person, not a doctor, not a PhD, and all that stuff. So I've always believed in the Doug Graham comment, like, why are raw vegans more worried about nutrition than everyone else? We should be less concerned about nutrition. I've always believed that's absolutely the case. And not, well, our food isn't supplemented and the soils are bad and the food's bad. And people just say this, it's like, prove it. and they can't prove it, and they won't prove it. And you realize they've never even looked into this. So yeah, people take a study, a thing they saw, an article, and just think that's it. That supports my belief. My belief comes from a story that I like, that came from the supplement industry, and now I'm going to believe that. It's silly. So anyway, trying to teach people, trying to get people relaxed about this diet. Like, eating the healthiest foods is a good thing. It's not something to worry about. Thank you for watching. Feel free to look into the UK Fruit Fest. I'll put a link below. Thanks for subscribing and share this video and all that stuff. Thank you.